The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I stood behind the counter of the convenience store, the familiar scent of stale coffee and snacks filling the air. It was my first night shift after graduating from university, and while I was excited to start this new chapter, an underlying sense of unease settled in my stomach. The store was located on a quiet stretch of road in Texas, surrounded by dense woods that seemed to swallow the light. First, the night shifted slowly, the clock ticking away as I stocked shelves and organized the coolers. A few customers trickled in, regulars who greeted me with casual nods and small talk. But as the hours dragged on and the darkness deepened, the atmosphere shifted. The store felt larger, emptier, and the shadows seemed to stretch longer, creeping toward me like fingers reaching out from the abyss. As I checked the time, I noticed it was already past midnight. The usual hum of the store was replaced by an unsettling quiet, broken only by the occasional rustle of plastic bags or the distant sound of a car passing by. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, a sensation that prickled at the back of my neck. I glanced around, half expecting to see someone lurking in the aisles, but nothing stirred. Just then, the front door chimed, and an older man stepped inside, his face obscured by the shadows. He shuffled toward the counter, his eyes darting around as if searching for something. "Late night, huh?" he said, his voice gravelly. I nodded, trying to maintain a friendly demeanor despite the chill that ran down my spine. "Just stocking up for tomorrow," I replied, but his gaze seemed to bore into me, unsettling me further. After he left, I took a deep breath, trying to shake off the unease. I resumed my tasks, but the feeling of being watched only intensified. The store felt alive, the shadows whispering secrets that I couldn't quite grasp. I glanced at the security cameras, but the grainy footage only added to the disquiet. I felt a growing dread, as if the darkness had a consciousness of its own. As the night wore on, I tried to focus on my work, but my mind began to wander. Strange sounds echoed through the store, soft whispers that seemed to drift from the aisles, rustling like leaves in the wind. I shook my head, convincing myself it was just my imagination, but the feeling of unease continued to claw at me. Around 2 a.m., the store was eerily quiet. I leaned against the counter, sipping a lukewarm cup of coffee, when I heard a loud crash from the back room. My heart raced, and I set my cup down, the sound reverberating in the silence. I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me to stay put, but curiosity got the better of me. I moved cautiously toward the source of the noise, each step echoing in the stillness. As I entered the back room, I found a shelf had toppled over, spilling its contents across the floor. "Hello," I called out, but the only response was the sound of my own voice bouncing off the walls. I felt a cold chill race down my spine, and I quickly began to clean up the mess, my heart pounding in my chest. The shadows in the corners seemed to shift, and I could feel the air thickening around me. Just as I finished, I heard the front door chime again. I hurried back to the counter, but when I looked up, no one was there. I frowned, glancing around the store, but the aisles were empty. "Is anyone there?" I called, but silence answered. I felt a wave of dread wash over me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. The lights flickered as I leaned against the counter, my mind racing with thoughts of what might be lurking in the darkness. I glanced at the clock, 3 a.m., the witching hour. I tried to shake off the feeling, but the oppressive atmosphere made it difficult to breathe. I grabbed my phone, hoping to distract myself, but the screen flickered and went black. I cursed under my breath, trying to restart it, but it was dead. Just then, I heard the whispers again, growing louder, swirling around me like a dark cloud. "Help us," they called, a chilling chorus that echoed in my mind. I felt my heart race as panic set in. "Stop it," I shouted into the darkness, but the whispers only grew stronger, filling the air with an unsettling energy that I felt a primal fear take hold, urging me to flee the store, but I was rooted in place, paralyzed by the unknown. The whispers morphed into frantic cries, pleading for help, sending shivers down my spine. I glanced around, feeling the shadows closing in, their presence suffocating. "This isn't real," I muttered to myself, but deep down, I knew something was terribly wrong. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, plunging the store into darkness. I stumbled back, my heart racing as I fumbled for the flashlight beneath the counter. When the lights returned, I felt a chill wash over me. There, at the far end of the aisle, stood a figure, a woman in a tattered dress, her face obscured by shadows. I froze, my breath hitching in my throat. "Who are you?" I called, my voice shaking. The figure didn't respond, only staring at me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. I took a cautious step back, but she began to move toward me, gliding silently across the floor. Panic surged through me, and I turned to run, my heart pounding in my chest. As I dashed toward the exit, I could hear her whispering my name, the sound echoing in the stillness. "Help us! Help us!" The words clawed at my mind, filling me with a sense of dread. I reached the door, fumbling with the lock, desperation driving me forward. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of voices pleading for release. Finally, I burst through the door, stumbling into the cool night air. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. The parking lot was empty, the shadows stretching across the pavement. I glanced back at the store, the lights flickering ominously, and I felt a wave of dread wash over me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being drawn back inside, that I stood outside for what felt like an eternity, my heart racing as I fought to regain my composure. The whispers had faded, but the memory of the figure lingered in my mind. What had I encountered in that store? I glanced at my phone, hoping it would turn back on, but it remained lifeless in my hand. Just as I considered going back inside to retrieve my things, the door swung open, and the figure emerged, her face finally illuminated by the streetlight. I gasped, stumbling backward as dread washed over me. Her eyes were hollow, devoid of life, and her mouth twisted into a haunting smile. "You shouldn't have come here," she said, her voice echoing in the night. That I turned to run, but the shadows seemed to reach out, wrapping around my legs like tendrils of darkness. I struggled against them, panic rising in my chest. "Help!" I screamed, but the night swallowed my cries, leaving only silence in its wake. The shadows pulled me back toward the store, and I felt the weight of despair settle over me. As I was dragged closer, flashes of memories filled my mind. Stories I had heard about the convenience store's dark past, tales of those who had vanished without a trace. The whispers returned, a cacophony of voices pleading for release. "Help us," they echoed, growing louder and more frantic. That I fought against the darkness, pushing with every ounce of strength I had left. "No, I won't let you take me," I shouted, my voice filled with determination. With a final surge of energy, I broke free from the shadows, sprinting toward my car. I fumbled for my keys, hands shaking as I desperately tried to unlock the door. Just as I managed to get inside, the whispers faded into the night, leaving only the sound of my racing heart. I locked the doors, gasping for breath as I glanced back at the store. The figure stood at the entrance, her hollow eyes watching me. A chilling reminder of the darkness I had faced, and I drove away from the convenience store, the weight of the night pressing heavily on my chest. The memories of what I had encountered lingered like a shadow, haunting me long after I had escaped. I tried to return to normalcy, but the whispers followed me. Echoing in my mind that in the weeks that followed, I learned that the store had been closed for years, its dark past buried beneath layers of neglect. The stories of those who had vanished echoed through the community, but no one believed me when I tried to share my experience. I was left alone with my haunting memories, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked just beyond the light. As I lay in bed at night, I would often hear the whispers calling out to me, a constant reminder of the choices I had made. The shadows danced just beyond my sight, a lingering presence that would never truly fade. I knew that the convenience store held secrets too dark to uncover, and I had narrowly escaped being consumed by its darkness. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the unknown. I encourage you to share your own fears and experiences with the shadows. What lies beyond the veil of our reality? Let's explore these chilling questions together, for the nightmare never truly ends. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as I stepped into the small pharmacy for my first night shift. Located on the outskirts of a quiet Texas town, the pharmacy felt like a lifeline for the few souls who ventured out after dark. I had been excited about the job, looking forward to putting my pharmacy degree to use, but as the clock struck midnight, an unsettling feeling settled in the depths of my stomach. The store was empty, save for the occasional rustle of the wind outside and the soft hum of the refrigeration units. As I stocked the shelves, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The aisles stretched into shadows, and the flickering lights cast an eerie glow that made the familiar space feel foreign. I tried to focus on my work, but the silence grew oppressive, weighing heavily on my shoulders that as the hours dragged on. I began to hear strange sounds echoing through the aisles. At first, I dismissed them as the creaks of an old building settling, but soon they morphed into whispers, soft, unintelligible murmurs that seemed to drift through the air. I glanced around, half expecting to see someone lurking in the shadows, but the pharmacy remained empty. The clock ticked slowly, each second stretching into eternity. I decided to take a break, pouring myself a cup of coffee from the small kitchen in the back. The warmth of the mug felt comforting against my cold hands, but as I sat in the break room, the whispers grew louder, swirling around me like a dark cloud. I felt a chill run down my spine, and I couldn't help but glance over my shoulder, the shadows creeping closer. When I returned to the main area of the pharmacy, I noticed one of the shelves had been knocked over. Medicine bottles lay scattered across the floor, their contents spilling out like secrets begging to be uncovered. I knelt to clean up the mess, my heart racing as I wondered what had caused the disturbance. Was it just my imagination, or was something more sinister at play? As I began to pick up the scattered bottles, I noticed something odd. One of the labels was faded, its text barely legible. I squinted, trying to make out the name, and felt a shiver run through me as I recognized it. An old medication that had been recalled years ago due to severe side effects. A chill washed over me, and I felt the weight of something dark pressing against my consciousness that I finished cleaning up the mess. But the whispers returned, now more insistent, filling the air with a sense of urgency. "Help us," they seemed to plead. I shook my head, trying to dismiss the voices as fatigue settling in after a long day. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. The pharmacy held secrets that were begging to be uncovered as the night wore on. I felt increasingly paranoid. I glanced at the security cameras, but the grainy footage only added to my unease. The store felt alive, the shadows shifting and swirling, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone. The air grew thicker, weighted with dread, and I tried to focus on my tasks, but my mind raced with thoughts of the strange occurrences. Around 2 a.m., the doorbell chimed, and I jumped, surprised to see a figure standing just outside the glass doors. It was a woman, her face pale and drawn, her eyes wide with fear. "Please, I need help," she pleaded, her voice trembling. I rushed to the door, but my instincts screamed at me to hesitate. Something about her felt off, like a shadow lurking just beneath her skin. "Are you okay?" I asked, trying to gauge her condition. But as I looked closer, I noticed a dark stain on her shirt, a deep crimson that sent a wave of panic through me. "Please, let me in," she begged, but I felt a primal fear grip my heart. I glanced at the clock, 2:13 a.m., and knew I couldn't let her in without knowing more. "Call the police," I shouted, backing away from the door as she pressed her face against the glass. "There's something wrong." But her expression shifted, a dark smile spreading across her lips that sent chills racing down my spine. "You can't escape," she whispered, her voice low and haunting. I stumbled back, my heart pounding in my chest as the whispers grew louder, filling my mind with dread that I backed away from the door, my heart racing as the woman's laughter echoed in my ears. "Help us," the whispers chorused, now a cacophony of voices pleading for release. I felt the shadows closing in, wrapping around me like a suffocating blanket. Panic surged through me, and I knew I had to get out of the pharmacy before it consumed me, that I bolted to the back room, my breath coming in ragged gasps as I fumbled for my phone. But as I reached for it, the lights flickered and went out, plunging me into darkness. I could hear the woman's voice outside, growing more frantic, her whispers merging with the shadows. "Open the door, let us in, stop it," I shouted, my voice echoing in the silence. I felt a cold breeze sweep through the room, wrapping around me like a ghostly hand. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of sorrow that filled the air with an unsettling energy. "We need you," they called, and I felt the darkness press against my mind, threatening to pull me under. Just then, the lights flickered back to life, revealing the woman standing in the doorway of the back room. Her eyes glinted with a strange light, and I could see the bloodstain on her shirt was now dripping onto the floor. "You can't hide from the truth," she said, her voice low and haunting. I stumbled back, fear gripping my heart as the shadows began to swirl around her. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "What do you want?" But she only smiled, the darkness behind her seeming to pulse and writhe. "We want to be free," she whispered, her voice filled with longing. The whispers echoed in my mind, growing louder and more insistent, drowning out my thoughts that I felt a wave of despair wash over me as the shadows began to close in. "You can't escape this place," she said, her voice rising in pitch. "You're one of us now." Panic surged through me as I turned to flee, racing toward the front of the store. I could hear her laughter behind me, echoing through the aisles, a haunting sound that filled the air with dread that I burst through the front doors, the cool night air hitting me like a splash of water. I stumbled into the parking lot, gasping for breath as I turned to look back at the pharmacy. The lights flickered ominously, and I could see the woman standing in the doorway, her expression twisted into a dark smile. I felt a chill wash over me as I realized I was not safe. "Help us," the whispers echoed, now a haunting chorus that filled the night. I turned to run, my heart pounding as I raced toward my car. I fumbled for my keys, hands shaking with adrenaline as I desperately tried to unlock the door. The darkness seemed to close in around me, the shadows reaching for me as I felt the weight of despair wrap around my heart. Just as I managed to get inside, the lights of the pharmacy went out completely, plunging the building into darkness. I glanced back, my heart racing, and saw the figure standing at the edge of the light, her hollow eyes watching me. I slammed the door shut, locking it tightly, but the whispers continued, echoing in my mind, and I drove away from the pharmacy, the weight of the night pressing heavily on my chest. The memory of the woman haunted me, and I could still hear the whispers calling out from the shadows. "Help us," they pleaded, a reminder of the darkness that had nearly consumed me. In the weeks that followed, I tried to forget the horrors I had faced that night, but the echoes of the pharmacy lingered in my mind. I learned that the store had a dark history, tales of those who had vanished without a trace, filling the air like a fog. I could feel their presence lingering, a reminder of the secrets that lay hidden within the walls. As I lay in bed at night, I would often hear the whispers calling out to me, a constant reminder of the choices I had made. The shadows danced just beyond my sight, a lingering presence that would never truly fade. I knew that the pharmacy held secrets too dark to uncover, and I had narrowly escaped being consumed by its darkness. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the unknown. I encourage you to share your own fears and experiences with the shadows. What lies beyond the veil of our reality? Let's explore these chilling questions together, for the nightmare never truly ends.